Welcome back to another episode of the Pod Well Travelled by Seven West Media. I'm Penny Thomas, and in the studio today I'm joined by Seven West Media's travel editor Stephen Scourfield and travel writer Mogens Johansen.
Thanks, Penny.
Welcome.
Thanks, Penny.
On today's show, we've got a few things planned. Later on, I'll be speaking to Tourism New Zealand's General Manager for Australia, Andrew Waddel. He's going to share some interesting, tidbits about New Zealand and his favourite places to visit and when to go as well. But before that, I'll throw it over to Stephen, who's actually just returned from Purnululu. You were up in Kununurra to visit the Purnululu Visitor Centre.
That's right. So the East Kimberley, so the Kimberley, just to put it in context, I suppose, Western Australia is the western third of the Australian continent. 1 million square miles in the old money, over, nearly 2.5 million square kilometres. The top bit of it is the Kimberley, which is a separate bit of geology. I mean, the Kimberley drifted in and welded on, so it's quite a different sort of place. And then the East Kimberley is perhaps, I think internationally, most known for the Bungle Bungle range in Purnululu National Park. So the Bungle Bungles, as we sort of call it, those who know it well, I suppose, are those striped beehive formations, hundreds and hundreds of these big domes. Dare I say, made famous partly by the film Australia, the Baz Luhrmann film Australia, where rather oddly they chase cattle through them, which isn't going to happen. It's a World Heritage Site, just celebrating its 20th anniversary as a World Heritage Site. And, famous globally. It's such a remarkable and, dare I say, unique formation. So you've got a big sandstone plateau that has been eroded, by these huge wet seasons that the Kimberley gets as part of the equatorial monsoon system, erosion, wind erosion over millions of years into these beehive domes. And as part of it marks the 20th anniversary. A new Purnululu Visitor Centre just opened, which is a vast improvement. And very happy to be there for that.
And you were joined by government officials, and was there a group of you that
every man and his dog. Oh no dogs in the national park. Every man and female and everyone in between turned up. Yes, it was a real celebration. This is obviously very important Indigenous area. So lots of traditional owners were involved in this. There was a smoking ceremony by the Gidja and Jura people. The Environment Minister for Western Australia was there to do the official opening, Rhys Whitby. But also it's been a very big project for the Department of Biodiversity, Conservation and Attractions, the DBCA. I actually got that in the right order. I had to.
It's a difficult one, isn't it?
You watch me.
But I mean, you're right. It must have been a huge logistical exercise. Building something in an area that's that remote.
Exactly right, Mogens. And talking to Mark Phillips, the architect who's from Kununurra, from the East Kimberley, just about the logistics of building, because you've got to be out of season, but then it's wet, and how do you get stuff in? Just the cost and logistics, particularly in and post-pandemic, just getting stuff there. And then, of course, the Fitzroy River washed out the bridge at Fitzroy Crossing. And then Catherine went under. So just getting materials in and getting labour and so on has been obviously very demanding. What I was most interested about, though, was the visitor centre. Well, not most interested about. I was interested about was the visitor centre staff, because they live out there.
Yeah.
Like generally for 6 months a year or 8 months a year, the people who person the visitor centre are remote workers who sort of work. I think it was 10 on, 4 off days, but obviously sort of largely stay out there for the whole 6 months.
That sounds like a nice FIFO job to me. That one.
It sounds good, doesn't it? Yeah. It's interesting though, being in a little family like that. but they like having the visitors through, and of course from all over the world.
Yeah,
that's really the point.
So what do they have at the visitor centres? Is there, the usual sort of souvenir shop and
very nice
other
mugs.
Facilities?
Yeah, they have very nice mugs. Yeah, but they have facilities, and I think more than anything, they've got knowledge. I think that's really their kind of stock in trade, that they will point you towards the indigenous history, the geological history, and there's quite a lot of facilities around the park, so you can stay overnight. For example, at Savannah Lodge, which is a tinted cabin, there are camping sites. So anyone listening, just got to bear in mind. So we've got the Great Northern Highway. Now, I'll also mention that the low-level crossing at Fitzroy Crossing is now open. So they put in basically a kind of dirt road through what is now the dry riverbed, which the Fitzroy is most of the year. So visitors can get in. You can take your caravan as you would from Broome across, the number one highway into, or your camper van or whatever you've got. So you can get through now between Broome and Kununurra and the East Kimberley. But from the Great Northern Highway, there's about 2.5 hours, 70 kilometres of track into Purnululu, and it's rough.
Right.
And it's a sort of bone of contention. You can leave your caravan at a parking place on Great Northern Highway, and then you can drive the Prado, whatever it is, you can drive into there, and you can stay at Savannah Lodge, for example, overnight and thoroughly explore the park. And I must say, it's really important to say that, Purnululu National Park was the national park that is heritage listed, not just the Bungle Bungle Range, which are those beehives. So there's a lot of other aspects to the national park, even though you've got this kind of show pony, which takes all the
glory.
Takes all the glory. Echidna Chasm, Cathedral Gorge, there's some really great walks. But even outside those known walks, there are other aspects to the park that are worth spending some time there. So to get back to your question, Mogens, the folk at the visitor centre will point you around all of that. And then there's some nice mugs, there's some great shirts, there's all that sort of thing. Huh?
You can't go without that, can you?
You can't go without that. So there is this kind of shop aspect of it. But I think as a hub for pointing people around the park, it's really important.
Yeah, nice. I'm actually interested, how long would you advise people to sort of plan for a trip if they were wanting to camp or caravan through Purnululu?
Shit, that's a good question. That's a very good question. I think if I was going to... Look, there's other ways of doing this. Sorry, I'll just fill in the gaps a bit. So from Kununurra, which is the main town in the East Kimberley, you can do flights seeing, so you can fly over the bungles. From Warman, which is on Great Northern Highway, just sort of north of Purnululu, you can do helicopter flights in there. But what I'm getting to is that there are tours in there, so you can do a tour in there from Kununurra on land, or you can fly and do tours. So Bungle Bungle guided tours, for example, will package up, so you could fly in. The company which owns this owns Savannah Lodge, owns Aviaire, and owns Bungle Bungle guided tours. So you could fly in from Kununurra. You could stay for certainly 2 nights, possible, or 3 nights. And then you could do tours. So then you would have transport on the ground with them as well. So Cathedral Gorge is, you can do too much in a day. Cathedral Gorge is a good walk, and you can spend some time doing that. That's certainly half a day. Echidna Gorge is a different thing again. There's actually helicopters based there as well, so you could do a helicopter flight, which gives you that sort of,
It is spectacular from the air, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I've only ever done it or seen it from the air, but it is a sight to behold.
It is. They're such different experiences, Mogens. And in fact, a friend of mine, Glenn Cheadlow, was making exactly this point, He's the chairman of the Purnululu World Heritage Committee, actually. And he was making the point that being on the ground there is a totally different experience to seeing it from the air. And he's completely right, that. So my answer to you, sorry, getting back to you, I'm thinking certainly 2, possibly 3 nights.
Okay, well, thanks for that, Stephen. Mogens, you're in to give us some tech update.
I've just come across a couple of sort of interesting, sort of newish products. Frameo is like a digital photo frame, and they've been around for a little while now, but quite a while now, should I say. But Frameo is a slightly different version of it. It essentially, you buy this digital photo frame and you connect it up to your home internet. And through that, you can invite various people to submit pictures to the frame. So, for example, my elderly mother is in a nursing home. She's got very poor motor skills after a stroke many years ago, and she's a little bit of a technophobe as well, which doesn't help. So for her to be able to just look at this frame and pictures appearing, as her children and her grandkids send pictures to the frame, is just a game changer. She doesn't have to do anything. The pictures just appear and they roll through as a slideshow. And there might be a new pic from me, there might be one from my brother, there might be one from one of her grandkids, that sort of appears on the roll there. And you can put little text messages on there as well. So I think it's a really cool idea, for families, just to, you can have several of these around the family and you can share pictures that way, and they just sort of keep rolling through, and it's a new slideshow every other day.
Sounds quite innovative, I guess, because with older sort of people or people who aren't on social media, they might miss out on watching people's stories and things like that on Instagram
exactly.
or Facebook or whatever platform you use. But this sort of invites them in because it's just sort of like uploading a picture to social media, except it just goes to your direct family member.
Exactly. And in my mother's case, we've tried all kinds of things, Facebook, Messenger and all these things, and she's got an iPad, but she's not really quite able to access the content herself, so she relies on carers and other people, to sort of show her or give her access to it. But this way, the frame can sit there on the table or mounted on the wall or whatever, and it just happens. Brilliant.
It's a nice way to stay connected.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you tell us the name again, Mogens? Sorry.
It's Frameo. So they come in sort of 2 different sizes, I think, but the most popular is a sort of 10 by 8 inch photo frame, which is basically, as I said, just you connect that up to your home Wi-Fi, and then through the frame, the software there, you invite different phone numbers to submit pictures. So it's not like the network or the frame is open to anyone. It's only people you invite to share, and you can obviously edit that as you need and want to. So I think it's a pretty cool idea. We're definitely setting that up for Mum. It'd be good. And the other thing I came across, just a new product. We've all heard about the gimbals, and some people in this room are sort of more or less enthusiastic about them. But this particular gimbal has got a couple of extra features to it. I can see Stephen's got something he wants to get off his chest here, so I'll let him do that.
No, they're just landfill. I think they're just landfill. The stabilizers in phones.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, the fact that you have, sometimes phones, in particular, if you're following, action, it could be kids' sport, or it can be the dog running around the backyard, holding the phone, even though they have got stabilizers in them, can actually be a little difficult for some. Okay. If so, and the additional stabilizer that's built into this thing is one thing. So to me, that does make sense. You've got a nice grip and you can control the phone, the zoom, and all those kind of things from there. But this one has got a couple of other things that I know you'll be excited about, Stephen. It's got an extendable sort of selfie mechanism, so you can get further away from yourself if you're filming yourself walking around or a group of people walking around. But wait, there's more. It's also got a little mini tripod attachment that you can screw into the bottom of the...
But basically, just to describe it, so is this sort of, it's got a handpiece, and then it's got this sort of C-shaped bit that you hang the phone in, which is always wobbly and you can never get level. That's basically.
No, well, I mean, you're not supposed to get that level. That's what the gimbal does.
I find them so fiddly and fussy.
No,
I've had a couple and given them. I gave one to Will Yeoman. We've never discussed it again. I don't know where that ended up.
Well, I think it could be a good idea. I'm getting one to test, hopefully, before too long.
There's obviously a fair bit of operator error at my end, so perhaps you can help me.
But I mean, I just think it's, even if you only used it as a selfie stick or the occasional tripod to do your own thing, they cost $250. It's not the end of the world to get one of these things. And if you are finding it, in particular when you're doing video, difficult to hold your phone and follow action and that sort of stuff, you will get steadier and better video from
You got
a
me
gimbal.
with the tripod fitting. I think that's good because I do actually have quite a nice little phone tripod-y selfie stick thing.
Yeah. Of course you do.
Oh, well, okay, I'm up to be persuaded.
Yeah,
we'll wait for it to come.
Yeah.
So what was it called? Sorry.
It's called it's made by DJI, the company that make drones and compact cameras, or should I say action cameras and various other bits and pieces. It's called the Osmo Mobile 6.
Okay.
And it cost about $249, I believe. So, but stay tuned for when I get a test model, and then I'll see if I can get Stephen Scourfield convinced.
Have you used these, Penny?
No, I haven't.
Whose side are you on?
Well, I'm
It's
on
not
the
that it's
fence,
about
I think.
size.
I'd like to see, what the difference really is in comparison to the stabilizers in your phone, because it is impressive. You do see a lot of really good quality videos out and around today, and I don't think I've ever been able to nail that type of quality.
I can feel this.
It sounds like you're more on my side of the fence than on Stephen's.
I can feel this slipping away from you. You two are just going to gang up.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I know you're an open-minded person, so we'll see.
Yeah, and maybe once you publish the story, we can put a video up online or something so we can see and let the people decide.
We can.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's right. Let the people decide.
Well, thanks for your time today, fellas, and I guess we'll speak to you next week.
Indeed.
Okay. Thank you.
Today I'm joined by Tourism New Zealand's General Manager for Australia, Andrew Waddel. Welcome to the show, Andrew.
Kia ora, Penny, and kia ora to your listeners.
First off, just for the people that are listening that might not know much about you, can you tell us about yourself and what you sort of do in your role at Tourism New Zealand?
Yeah, certainly. So my name is Andrew Waddel, born and bred Kiwi, grew up in Wellington and Auckland, University in Dunedin, and travelled up and down the country. I didn't know at the time that all those family trips with friends, return trips from overseas would then become a knowledge base for being General Manager for Tourism New Zealand based in Australia. So I actually live in Sydney, and our role is to inspire and encourage our good Australian friends to visit New Zealand, enjoy the best it's got to offer, and really give them a broad understanding of what New Zealand has to offer, how they can enjoy it through all seasons, really, and make the most of being a sort of a country that is very different to New Zealand, and is an exciting place to visit.
We've sort of experienced a few sort of challenging years, especially for tourism operators all over the world recently. I guess, what's it been like to be in your position and see New Zealand really reopen to the world? And how is its sort of tourism industry going at the moment?
Yeah, well, looking at that time during COVID, travel went from New Zealand's number one export earner with a huge number of visitors to New Zealand and over the year to really zero. So, and Australia went through the same. So New Zealand and Australians' journey has been very similar, both long-haul destinations for the rest of the world. But there was a camaraderie between the two, a sort of sibling rivalry meets solidarity, and really that both industries supported each other to navigate choppy waters. And as we saw with domestic in Australia, the return of domestic and really looking in your own backyard for everything that's got to offer. And, that was something that we saw from WA, a lot of Western Australians visiting their own state and getting into different places. And we saw that across Australia and also across New Zealand as well. So domestic was the core of the base of, core and base of the tourism industry, and keeping that really kicking over, and New Zealanders and Australians alike really re-educating themselves about the great countries they live in. And then as the borders opened, Australians was the first to fly market for New Zealand. So, there's a huge number of Australians that visit friends and family in New Zealand. With 40 years of closer economic relations, so there's strong business and commercial links between the two countries. And then the diversity of the tourism offering and the holiday experience that New Zealand has to offer, and like-minded, like for like as New Zealanders to Australia as well, means that they've both been together in that recovery. Visitor numbers have returned healthily. It's not just about return of numbers, but it's about where they go, what communities they're visiting, how they're engaging with nature, how they're relating and building communities. And we've seen a steady and sustainable growth of visitors. And that's still got some way to go. We know that flight capacity is still a little bit restricted, but prices are a little bit high in domestic and internationally. But we forecast that that'll soften and make it a little bit easier for people to travel.
For people who are thinking about visiting New Zealand soon or planning a trip in the future, I'm actually interested to hear your sort of travel recommendations. And I guess because it's, the two islands, I guess there's so much to see and do. And we'd probably be here all day if we sort of unpacked every single one of your favourite things to do. Well, maybe we can sort of categorise them into seasons and hear your sort of top picks for winter, summer and the shoulder seasons.
No, absolutely. It won't be a whole day, but maybe half a day discussion. But it's my favourite topic, obviously, in not just my role, but a proud Kiwi being able to talk about Aotearoa in New Zealand. I think, as it stands now, autumn going into winter, just to give a lay of the land, the four seasons in the year. We're in autumn at the moment, so some great autumn colours through central Otago with Arrowtown out of Queenstown. Winter, and just very much a summary, winter is fantastic for ski. So there's 24 ski resorts across the country, majority in the South Island. And then into spring, you get that sort of, longest sun days, and you're able to enjoy a lot of the North Island is particularly very good with cultural activities through Rotorua, and then into summer. And one of the things about New Zealand, long summer days, so with daylight savings, you can get light up till like 10 p.m, which is fantastic. And that's where a lot of the additional activities, whether you're hiking and able to enjoy something like a great walk through to mountain biking. What I would say across the board is, 6 hour, half an hour flight. It is one flight, which is fantastic, into Auckland Airport, and then main Air New Zealand. I think you've got dailies there now from Air New Zealand from Perth into Auckland. You've got the direct network from Air New Zealand to the domestic across North and South Island. The longest domestic flight is just over an hour, I believe. So, very short skip and a jump into one of the domestic towns. And then really good hub and either hub and spoke, which we call it, which is base yourself in the city and enjoy the surrounds by short drives, or the classic road trip. And there's lots of different road trips out of each of the main centres. Rent a car or a camper van and really explore some of the regions. So, very much a lot to offer. I like that you've talked about it from a seasonal perspective. Crowded House talked about 4 seasons in one day. It's very much, fantastic 4 seasons across the country, and really able to enjoy a range of experiences during any of those seasons.
And it sounds like there's something for every sort of stripe of traveller as well. If you're a family wanting to experience new things, or young couples that just want to go and check out some new wineries and stuff like that, there's heaps to do.
Yes, there is. And what we saw with a return of travel post-COVID was a couple of things. One, people wanting to be independent and be able to travel where they wanted and how they wanted, and safely and be masters of their own itineraries. So that's where we saw road trips, which can be 1 or 2 people, or and staying at sort of very nice resorts and so forth around the country, or the road trip with a family and so forth. So that was really good. But also that reconnection and deeper connection within nature. So one of the things that New Zealand's got to offer is nature and diversity of nature and landscape within a short period of time. So it's very easy to get around. Reminded in one of your earlier podcasts that a lot of familiar things around travelling in New Zealand, same side of the road, language. So it's a world away, but very close in many instances. So it's very easy across the board for older travellers might want to take a longer time on the roads, through to that short trip, packing a lot in a short period of time. So a lot of range of things, and also getting into nature, as I talked about. One of the other areas of growth we've seen is really around that deeper immersion in community, and also within the world view of Māori, so Te Ao Māori. We've seen really a lot more interest in that across Australia with Indigenous tourism, but in New Zealand it's deeply integrated in not just within New Zealand but also within the tourism sector. So even through doing adventure and staying at different places, Te Reo, the language of Māori will come through, the sort of nice and warm embrace of some of the principles of Māori as well. So in that sense, deeply immersive experience, and something that people will carry with them when they leave the country.
Yeah, the cultural experiences do sound incredible and really engaging as well with people that are visiting, but with the locals that I guess are from New Zealand and can sort of share the rich heritage that the country has to offer. So that's really, I think there's a lot of really appealing sort of aspects for a lot of travellers from Australia to come over and visit New Zealand. And I think I also just wanted to touch on, just because we're huge on sort of diving and snorkeling and everything like that here in WA, I heard about the PADI program that was launched earlier this year, I think it was. Can you sort of explain what that program was?
Yeah, absolutely. So little did we know, or the world knew, that there was a way to be a certified diver as a mermaid diver. So on World Mermaid Day, we teamed up with PADI and made a lot more people aware of this. So in one of the ways of, so it's a form of free diving. So a form of free diving where you are diving in the form of mermaid, and you're able to get certified and then train others. And so what it was is really a way of bringing to life New Zealand underwater. New Zealand's got some phenomenal snorkeling and diving. I myself have PADI certified, not hugely experienced, but enjoy it. And I've dived in an amazing place out of Tutukaka with a dive company, Dive Tutukaka. And there's a place called Poor Knights, and so we've taken people there before, and it's one of Jacques Cousteau's top 10 dive sites. Okay. Phenomenal place, and there's a lot of dive operations that run out from there. And so, we were able to bring to life New Zealand's underworld and overworld, I guess you'd say, with what the diving experience gets to offer. In addition to that, there's additional fantastic snorkeling places as well. So Abel Tasman, you're able to kayak and then, dive and then snorkel, when you pitch tent and on these beautiful beaches in the top of the South Island. So the PADI program and the mermaid certification is an interesting one and really helps bring to life the joys of getting underwater and experiencing the underworld.
No, and I saw some images of the mermaid sort of diving experience, and that there's some really great pictures that I'll have to share when I put this story, when I file the story, I guess, and it goes to print, because it's definitely worth having a look at. Was there anything else that you wanted to share with our listeners about travelling New Zealand that you think is sort of worthy of knowing?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, one of the great things about travelling to New Zealand is, the idea that we're just over the Tasman. So, a lot of Australians sort of have this idea that they'll visit in the future, or I'll go later on, or I'm going to go somewhere else. And we're really encouraged in the idea of being able to travel there now, and really make the most of it. There's this idea that visitors arrive as strangers but leave as whānau or family, and it's a place you feel the embrace. And so you get the sort of experience of and view of amazing landscape and time on the ground, but it's really, you leave talking about the people, that's something special that you're able to take with you. The other thing I'd also raise is the food offering of New Zealand is hidden under a rock, I would say. Australians love food and wine, whether it be the story of provenance of the food through to the different dining occasions and quality of food. And New Zealand's up there with the best of them. So, if you are looking to travel there, it's not just the places you go and the experience you do, but really looking into the restaurants that are available, the chefs that are on offer, the style of cooking. We're seeing a lot of growth of different cultural experiences and food-based tours as well. As an example, there's one in Auckland there as well, and also in Wellington, the city, the capital city as well. So definitely looking into the food and beverage offering. New Zealand is also known for its famous wine, so that's definitely something to enjoy after a good day.
Awesome. Okay, well, before we sort of wrap up our chat today, I've got one final question that I wanted to ask you, and even though you might be tempted to sort of mention somewhere in New Zealand, I'm actually keen to hear your response, because the question is, if you could jump on a plane tomorrow and go anywhere in the world outside of New Zealand and Australia, where would you go and why?
Oh, it's a tough question. It's very hard for me not to say anything around New Zealand. Look, I think there'd be two things for me. With borders, only recently open within, just over a year now. There's still a lot of pent-up demand and travel that I haven't been able to realise in the time that it was closed. Visiting friends and family still is important to me, and there's family in the UK and time and life in London that I had that I'd love to get back there at some stage. The second one probably wouldn't be a plane, but it would be a plane and boat, and that would be to get down into Antarctica.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of time watching a lot of planet documentaries in the last couple of years, appreciation of environment and ensuring that we're looking after the environment, what we call kaitiakitanga, connection to people and place, and looking after the environment is really important. And I think it would be amazing, but also quite confronting to see Antarctica and what the state of health it is there, but the inspiration that it can offer to us all. And that's linked to some time I also had in Canada just after university and seeing grizzly bears. So there's a piece of me that would just absolutely love to see some polar bears. So that would take me to the other end of the world. So three destinations, all in different parts of the world.
Yeah, great answer. And you can tell that you're sort of a nature lover at heart. So that's really nice. Okay, well, thanks for chatting with us today. And we'll sort of be publishing more about New Zealand across the travel pages in the West Australian and online. But otherwise, thank you for your time.
Good, and thanks very much.